All right. Hi everyone, this is Tanisha Joshi and I'm going to take the version 1 test of Pearson new updates. So we will be seeing that what are the updates and if my some new and some older methods will work or not after the test. So I will be recording the whole test from beginning to end and see if things works or not. I am having my notepad, my pen and everything with it, and I'm just warming up before I start the test. So this will be according to the new test, which will have the speaking, reading, writing, listening as per the new updates, and we'll see that how it will go. So I am just setting up my things here. Scored practice test 1. Please click start when you are ready to begin the test. So first there is microphone check. I'm using a Chrome browser. Microphone before clicking next. Continuing with the make sure the microphone is on. When you are ready, click on the record button and say the man felt poorly so he decided to take some medicine and go to bed. I've spoken. I'll click on the stop button and recording is completed. So I'm going to do my recording check first of all. The man felt poorly so he decided to take some medicine and go to bed. The man felt poorly so he decided to take some medicine and go to bed. Okay, there are some possible disturbance definitely in my recording. I will be setting my mic properly and recording again. The man felt poorly, so he decided to take some medicine and go to bed. The man felt poorly, so he decided to take some medicine and go to bed. Okay, the recording is slightly better, but there are still some disturbances being recording. So, shall we proceed with it? Because I want to keep it as per the final examination. The man felt poorly, so he decided to take some medicine and go to bed. The man felt poorly, so he decided to take some medicine and go to bed. Okay, I'm not very happy with the recording. It's a bit disturbing, but I think I would continue. The man felt poorly, so he decided to take some medicine and go to bed. The man felt poorly, so he decided to take some medicine and go to bed. Okay, so I need to speak slight softly so that my voice is not very bad. The man felt poorly, so he decided to take some medicine and go to bed. The man felt poorly, so he decided to take some medicine and go to bed. Okay, so here we are going to start. The test format is 2 hours long, content interaction, speaking and writing, reading and listening. Hi, my name is Tanisha Joshi and I'm taking this PT test. I have completed my master's in business administration. My future plan is to study abroad, and that is why I choose this Pearson test of English. Okay, so the thing is that I'm getting only 35 seconds to see it. Your subject outlines are a good place to go to find information about which textbook to buy. You will usually be given one of these of each subject in the first lecture, but if you're missing one or need one earlier, then you should contact the subject coordinator. Okay, I'm not getting any pop up to confirm if I'm ready to click on next button. Indigenous. Yet, this landscape, which appeared so alien and confronting to the white settlers and explorers, had been home for thousands of years to indigenous Australians for whom the plains, ranges, and deserts were a sustaining, spiritual, and integral part of their existence. The terms voice and text are multifaceted. The terms voice and text are multifaceted. Both have a wide range of possible meanings in everyday speech and academic usage. You may encounter two words used in a variety of ways in connection with different subjects, and they won't always mean exactly the same thing. Okay, so now this is a bit lengthy one, so I got 40 seconds for this thing to prepare. So the time of my read alouds are varying in between. With a population of only just over 30 million living in the world's second largest country, Canada is justly renowned for vast tracts of wilderness untroubled by pollution either from industry or from intensive farming methods. A major conservation issue is the battle to stop the logging of virgin forest in the northern Ontario and on the west coast. Since its inception, the United Nations system has been working to ensure adequate food for all through sustainable agriculture. The majority of the world's poorest people live in rural areas of developing countries. They depend on agriculture and related activities for their livelihoods. This makes them particularly vulnerable to man-made and natural influences that reduces agricultural production. And for this one, I've got only 30 seconds because it is quite short. Okay, my mouth is getting dry a bit and it is affecting my fluency. In the past, wars have led to inflation and higher commodity prices. Fighting disrupts trade and prevents raw materials from being shipped from one country to another. In Second World War Britain, a banana was the height of luxury.
Modern business has to adapt and be flexible in order to survive.
Magnum business has to adapt and be flexible in order to survive.
Applicants for the course should preferably have a degree in English or journalism.
Application for this course should have a degree in English or journalism.
What's going on that can help patients leave their fears at the door?
What's going on that the feet of the patients are leaving at the door?
After 1830, periodicals appeared in large numbers in America.
After 1830, periodicals occur in large numbers in America.
The computer crashed and I hadn't saved my work.
The computer crashed and I haven't saved my work.
His academic supervisor called in to see him last night.
His academic advisor called him to see him last night.
You should inquire about direct deposit.
You should inquire about direct deposits.
Just wait a minute, I'll be with you shortly.
Just wait a minute, I will be with you shortly.
You must include your name and identity number on the registration form.
You must include your name and identity number on the paper of inclusion.
The graph shows the percentage of people who smoke according to gender.
The graph shows the percentage of people who smoke according to gender. Okay, I think repeat sentences were less. They were from mid range to difficult. I've tried to not speak some of them completely. So we see that if 70 to 80% of accuracy will work. Moving to describe images. This is a table which is clearly indicating the information about teaching as a career. The data is given in percentage, which is varying from 1 to 95%. There are three major categories that are final year students planning teaching career, which is 1%, recently graduated students now teaching, that's 7%, and the percentage of teachers who find teaching a satisfying career, that is 95%. So the highest percentage in the cases of those who find teaching as a satisfying career, while second highest for those who are now teaching, and the lowest one in the case of students who are planning to teach, that's 1% only. So overall it's all about teaching as a career among different students. This bar graph is giving information about education pays in four different type of degrees. It is clearly indicating the unemployment rate in 2007 in percentage, which is varying from 1.4 to 3, while on the other hand there is median weekly earnings in 2007, which are represented in dollars. There are four type of degrees highlighted, which is doctoral degree, master's degree, bachelor's degree, and associate degree. If I talk about the unemployment rate, it was maximum in the case of associate degrees at 3% and the lowest for doctoral degrees at 1.4%, while median weekly earnings were highest for doctoral degree and lowest for associates. So in conclusion, it was all about education base. The given bar graph represents information about proportion of adults who are unable to visit more often to museums or art galleries, and it is representing their barriers to visiting museums. The data is given in percentage varying from 0 to 60, and the base is 347,000. So there are different categories, which includes lack of time to be highest more than 50%, not available locally is the second highest, that is 30%. Then other categories includes transport problems, cost of entry, caregiver and responsibilities, that is between 10 to 20%, and the lowest is lack of information about events, which is less than 10%. So it is clear lack of time is the major reason. It is a map of Switzerland which is clearly indicating about different languages which is spoken there. So there are four major categories: German, French, Italian, and Romansh. I can clearly tell that the highest area is covered by French and German language, which is followed by Italian and Romansh, and the lowest one is in the case of Romansh only. There are different colors also indicated to represent different areas, which are pink, green, and yellow, where German being maximum and French being the second highest and lowest for Italian and Romansh. So, this picture was all about the most common languages in Switzerland. This is a line graph which is clearly indicating information about volunteer rate according to their age, from the age group of 18 to 24 to 85 years and over. The data is given in percentage from 0 to 50, and there are two major categories, that is males and females. So I can clearly tell that if I talk about males, the highest data was indicated in the age group of 35 to 44, that's 50%, and the lowest for 85 years and over. However, if I talk about females, initially it was 30%, it was highest at 65 to 74, and lowest at the age of 85 years and over. So it graph shows a fluctuating trend.
To begin with, how underfunded is UK higher education? The table shows the proportion of gross domestic product spent on institutions by the main OECD countries for the latest year, for which we have statistics, 2001. It shows that UK spending, public and private, on higher education institutions was at 1.08%, well below the OECD mean of 1.34% of GDP. The table clearly shows that the UK is in the bottom 5 countries of the 20 in the table in terms of public expenditure on tertiary education, its spending being proportionately equal to that of Italy and Mexico. At the other end of the table, we see that Denmark and Finland allocate most public money to tertiary education, spending twice as high a proportion of GDP on it as does the UK.
In this lecture, the speaker was mainly talking about a table which was representing how underfunded is UK in higher education, and the statistics was from 2001. So he was representing that UK is spending on public and private sector both, where 1.08% was in the private and public sector and 1.4% of GDP was also spent there. He mentioned that how the table showed that UK was in the bottom of the 20s and it was equal to the GDP of Italy and Mexico. He also mentioned the data of Denmark, which was allocated in the GDP, and finally, it was representing the Finland country as well.
So let me begin with the notion of a dimension. The dimension is simply how many numbers that you need to specify a location. So if we think about the surface of the Earth, the equator is one-dimensional. You need to specify only one number to specify a location on the equator, namely the longitude. The surface of the Earth altogether is, of course, two-dimensional. You need to specify two numbers, the latitude and longitude, to specify a location on the Earth. The space above the Earth is three-dimensional. If I want to tell you the location of a hang glider, I need to give you the latitude, longitude, and altitude. But mathematically, there's no reason to stop at 3 dimensions. A 4-dimensional space is simply a space in which you need to specify 4 numbers to specify a location in that space. A 5-dimensional space would be one in which you need to specify 5 numbers, etc. In fact, I claim you already know an example of a 4-dimensional space. So let's define an event just to be an occurrence that happens in a small region of space at a definite time. In other words, an event is like a snap of your fingers or a clap of your hands. And now the collection of all events, if I want to specify an event, I need to give you 4 numbers. I need to tell you where it happens in space and when it happens in time.
The lecture was based on notion of dimensions, and the speaker was telling that we just need to know how many numbers do we need. So he mentioned various examples where first he mentioned equators, which is in 1 dimension, so we need longitude only. Then he mentioned the surface of Earth, which requires 2 dimension, that is latitude and longitude. The 3 dimensions includes altitude as well, such as hang glider. And then he said that there is no reason to stop at 3, 4, and 5 dimensions. Finally, he gave an example of space where the event occurs, such as the different type of fingers and claps of hands. So it includes just the when it happened in space and when in time.
The terms circumference, diameter, and radius refer most commonly to which geometric shape?
Circle.
Who prepares and sells medicine in a shop or hospital?
Pharmacist.
Where on a college campus would a periodicals collection be located?
Library.
What part of a guitar do you strum with your fingers?
Strings.
What official document protects the creator's rights to his or her invention?
Copyright.
A group of 3 students are discussing ideas about how to make their campus more environmentally friendly.
So I've been thinking a lot about the environment lately, and that we should be looking at how to make the campus greener. We've got recycling bins for cardboard and cans, but that's only scratching the surface, and we could be a lot more proactive. I've heard that ink and printer cartridges can nearly always be recycled, so that could be one starting point.
Yeah, and don't forget batteries too. All the raw materials can be extracted from them for the manufacturers to reuse. So you're conserving energy, reducing pollution, and helping the economy. You know, that's another thing we could be doing. But what can we do to encourage students to actually try and recycle more? It'd be good if we could offer some incentive.
What if we asked the university to do a competition to get students to design some kind of artwork promoting recycling? I reckon people would be up for that. But, what would the winners get? I think we need to draw people in somehow, create a buzz and get them talking about it, and then actually doing the recycling.
Maybe the winner's artwork could be displayed on the university website homepage and in the main building foyer. And then, in practical terms, we'd also need more allocated drop-off points for recyclable items. I mean, at the moment, there aren't very many places for people to recycle stuff, so it just goes into the regular garbage.
Yeah, great idea about displaying the artwork in a place everyone can see it. And maybe for the first couple of weeks after the new recycling points have been introduced, we can get a group of volunteers in those fluorescent yellow high-visibility jackets to hand out flyers, or just let people know about them.
Yes. Well, we need it to become a habit so that the next time a student has some cardboard or paper to recycle, they remember to take their used ink cartridges or batteries with them too.
And we can pass the info about the competition and the recycling points to those 2 final year students who do that really popular weekly podcast for the campus. We could also ask them to build in a regular time slot to talk more about the environment and being greener on the campus, to keep the dialogue going. We don't want to lose momentum. There's always the danger that we have a couple of months of change and then we all go back to how we were before.
Oh yes, that's a good idea. They're great, those 2 podcasters. I know loads of people who listen to them. There'll also be others who listen to their podcasts who can offer good ideas about other steps we can take. So that should, hopefully, help maximize our chances of reaching as many students as possible.
The discussion was based on how to make the campus environmental friendly. There were 3 students, 2 females and a male, and they were discussing different methods to improve the environment and the recycling habits of students on the campus. So the first speaker was a female, and she mentioned how to make the environment more better for the students. So she mentioned the recycled bins and how they are being made from scratch, and we need to be more proactive. He also mentioned that things like ink cartridges can be also used and recycled, and she suggested competition for recycling. And the second speaker agreed and represented the examples of batteries that conserve energies, reduce pollutions, and also help in economy. He mentioned the example of students to recycle more, that how they could be promoted, and he said that it is a great idea if they will be recycling, listen to podcast, and also maximize the use. Then the third speaker was also a lady, and she said it is more important to draw people's attention and create a buzz about actually doing the recycling. They need to work on the habits of the students, that they should be using the cardboard and also utilizing the ink and the batteries from the recycled material. Finally, the first speaker suggested of a competition where recycling can take place, and they were representing that how the podcast can also talk more about saving the pollution and focusing more on how to be more eco-friendly on campus. So, in conclusion, the discussion was majorly based on how to focus on recycling, and it would be better for the students and campus areas.
A group of 3 students are discussing their university accommodations.
Have you sorted out your university accommodation yet? I heard that you're going to stay in the university hall this year. What made you go for that?
Well, first I like the fact that it's all inclusive and I don't have to worry about anything. Bills, cleaning, or dealing with landlords, and all the problems that comes with renting. Also, sharing a flat with other students is loads of fun.
Maybe, but you know that it's really the luck of the draw who you end up living with. Sorry to disappoint you, but there's no guarantee you'll live with any of your friends even if you book together as a group and request to stay together. Don't you mind that you have no control whatsoever over who you're going to share your accommodation with?
I don't mind being placed with people I've never met before. In fact, in a way, I actually kind of like it. I love getting to know new people, widening the circle of my friends. That's one of the benefits of living on the university campus, isn't it?
Well, if you say so, but that's definitely not for me. I don't like being thrown in the deep end and not having any control over the people I'll be living with. Plus, having to put up with their mess and noise on a daily basis? Ugh! I had enough of that last year. So I'm going to rent a flat with one of my mates.
That's a bold move. Are you sure about that? Have you thought about all the bills you'll have to pay? And also, maintaining the property is going to be your responsibility. You'll have to do all the cleaning, too. I think campus accommodation is the best. I want to hang out with people and go to lots of events, and living on campus is going to make it easier.
I've decided to go for a shared flat. I prefer living with people who have the same habits. You know, I come from a quiet home, and the idea of having loads of people around constantly is kind of irritating. I might do it next year, but not now. I don't mind managing the bills because I like the independence and flexibility I get in return.
So you guys are giving up living very close to university, and you're prepared to pay more to be on your own. Plus, there's the cost of public transport.
Sure, but with my own place, I get a bit more space. I don't really fancy having a tiny room feeling cramped. True, I might have to go a bit further away from campus to get a cheaper rent, but I don't mind that at all. I'm planning to buy a cheap bike and cycle to class, so I'll get my daily dose of exercise.
Better. The discussion was based on university accommodation, and there were three speakers, a female and two males, and they were talking about their choice of accommodation. Two of the students were agreeing of getting an accommodation out of the university. However, a person was more into the new accommodation of the university and agreeing with that. So the first speaker was a student and female, and she was mentioning that they are going to live in university hall, and she is not for that option. So she said that there is no comfort and it will be messy and there will be a lot of noise. So she has planned to rent a flat which will be more spacious. She will feel more comfortable, and she has no worries about the bills because she is ready to pay that. She agrees that she has to move away from the university area, but she's planning to get a bike which will also cover her exercise. The second speaker was a male student, and he was happy to live in the new university accommodation of the hall because he said it includes no bills and the sharing is also a fun part, and it will not include any kind of soul clearing, and he don't mind this new setup at all. There would be new people according to him, and that will widen his circle of friends, and he has no problem with living with people that he don't know. Plus he has issues with the bills and maintaining the areas on his own, so he will be living near the campus, and he will not giving up not living close to campus. Finally, the third student was a male, and he has planned to live into a shared flat. He said it is highly depends on luck what type of partners we get when we are living in university halls. Plus there are no real friends and there is no control that who you share with your apartment with. So he said that it would be great to live with people with similar habits, and there could be irritations, and next year he will be doing that, and there is no issue with the bills to him. So they were all having different aspects on university accommodation. Friends from school is going away to start
One of your friends from school is going away to start university next week. She's excited, but sad to say goodbye. Some of you are discussing ideas for a present to give her for her new apartment. What would you suggest to them?
Hi everyone, I am here to discuss something really important about Sam's move to his new apartment. The thing is that we are having a lot of confusions what's to get. So, as you know, she's our friend from school and she's going away to start university next week. She will feel very alone. So, I have some suggestions what we can present her for her new apartment. I was having three options. We can give her plants as she like it so much. If not, we can get her a painting or photograph of all of us together, as a memory, and she will remember it every time whenever she see it. I know it's very hard to say goodbye, but we should plan something nice so she remember it. Thank you.
You have decided that you don't want to take the course in mechanical engineering. Your friend has dropped a course recently. You want your friend to tell you the correct procedure to follow and when the deadline is for getting a tuition refund. What do you say?
Hi Max, I need to discuss something really important that I think you can help me with. The thing is that I have finally decided that I don't want to take the course of mechanical engineering and I'm planning to drop. I know that you have also dropped a course recently. I thought you might will be able to help me with that. So I wanted to ask you what is the procedure and if I need to pay anything extra to do that, and what would about the fees that I have already paid? Will I get any kind of refund? And it will be great if you can tell me if there is any deadline for getting a refund for the tuition fee. Do you think you can help me with that? I would be really grateful to you. Thank you so much for this update. All right, so we are going with the writing module, and I have got a summary which is specifically in first person format. I will not write it in exactly copy paste format because I have to narrate it. So whenever I'm getting a summary in first person move, I will be narrating it. So it will always starts from this. The writer states that I have done this summary a number of times in my life. Thank God I didn't sneeze in my speaking. Okay, so I'm going to use my age old template to do this and see if it works or not. मेरे को नहीं चाहिए, बंद कर दो. ओके, कम्युनिकेशन का क्या डिमांड है? Okay. I have only 23 minutes to do the reading, so I will try to be as fast as possible here. Okay. The questions of whether graduates' earnings vary according to their Light. Okay, I will not be spending so much time. Otherwise, I'm losing. December 1895, our sense of cinema as a site of commercial entertainment can be traced back to the Lumiere brothers. In December 1895, they discovered a fee-paying public in Paris. They connected a fee-paying public. They attracted a fee-paying public in Paris to sit and watch flickering images on an illuminated screen. The commercial Pandora's box they opened was to blossom in a few years into a world cinema industry, and it speaks fantastical Hollywood. Yet, 30 years in which this miraculous construction was accomplished, audiences rarely listen to films. Hence, the early decades of cinema were characterized by the title silent. In Dash, there was a lot of noise. The absence of human voice and conversation make the film seem rather strange. Lives what we should exercise. A systematic understanding of the forces which shape our lives that we should exercise control over them. The founders thinkers of sociology who went to prominence during the relationship is an intimate one because it is just with the social change institute is. The flowers look the way to do this to attract insects which pollinate them, but the whole story scientists have now discovered that plants have another trick up their leaves to make themselves irresistible to even the most choosy insect. Beverly Grover, senior lecturer in the Department of Plant Science, Cambridge University, and her recently set up bees on their floral. Write a different color combination. The same result. The following statement apply to people in Denmark who lost their job. The proportion of good customer service must start at the top. If management doesn't realize how important this dash of their business, this aspect of their business is, they will be at an instant disadvantage. Good customer response equates to loyal customers, which are cornerstones of any successful business. No matter how much you invest in marketing, if you don't have fundamental elements of your business, it's wasted money. Minister demands to help cope with pressure of an increasingly competitive political environment have been key drivers of staffing systems development, but there has not been commensurate growth in. I've done this. It's very bad question. The framework of ministerial staff is dash and ad hoc. It is fragmented and ad hoc, operating the operating framework, the arrangements. It has published Michael T. Madigan, a major editor of the journal treatise, his non-scientific interests he lives beside. Relatively powerless creatures, it's what we can do as groups that has standards to take over the planet. No, enabled us. As laga idea आएगा. His groupings, corporations, religious states are now part of a vast network of interconnected information flows, finding points of resistance where smaller units can stand up to the waves. Hmm. Points of resistance where smaller units can stand up to the waves. Information washing around the globe is becoming harder all the time. Meant up included up, come up, stand up, come up, stand up. Okay, I'm just going with my best. Ah, it's over.
seems to me that architecture is very much something that causes us both pleasure and trouble. I live in a part of West London where I feel that many of the streets where I live are really, really ugly, and this distresses me every time I walk to the supermarket or walk to the tube. I think, God, why did they build that? And the terrible problem with architecture is that it lasts so long. You know, if you write a bad book or do a bad play, you know, it'll have a short run and then be shelved and no one will suffer. A bad building has a serious impact for, could be hundreds of years on the people around it. And so I suppose that the book arose a little bit from a kind of frustration, almost anger, that there was so much bad architecture around. And then I realized that if you talk to architects and you say, why are buildings not more beautiful? They'll say, oh, how can you use such a word as beauty? That's a really arrogant word. No one knows what's beautiful. It's all in the eye of the beholder. And I couldn't help but think that actually, well, you know, we all tend to agree that, you know, Rome is nicer than Milton Keynes and that, you know, San Francisco has the edge over Frankfurt. And I thought, well, if we can make that sort of generalization, surely there are some things we can say about why a building works and why it doesn't. And so the book is really an attempt to suggest why architecture works when it does and what might be going wrong when it doesn't work.
In his book, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat and Other Clinical Tales, neurologist Oliver Sacks relates the tale of a medical student who one day woke up and found that his sense of smell was so acute that, like a dog, he could walk around identifying people, places, and things by his sense of smell. And what a wondrous experience it was. Like a visit to another world, he said. Now, normally, we humans don't have a sense of smell as acute as many other animals. We tend to rely more on what we see or hear to tell us about the world. Still, our sense of smell is powerful. Most of us can detect 10,000 different odors, from cigar smoke to a chlorinated swimming pool, from curry to a city sewer. And think about how a particular odor can instantly conjure up past memories. Maybe it's fresh-cut grass that makes you think of childhood summers, or baking bread that reminds you of a special holiday.
At the moment, med students get very few chances to practice giving injections, with very expensive imported simulation pads being shared between 20 or so students in a class. Arjun and Jag really focused on developing a product that was accessible to all students.
With the different malls right now, we have both the standard unit and the professional unit. The standard unit is for people that have access to syringes and so on and so forth. So these are usually your nursing colleges and so on. And for them, we obviously don't want to put in unnecessary material to keep the cost down for them. Our primary goal was to have something that was affordable and efficient for students. You know, being students ourselves, we knew that was important right from the get-go.
So in a very important sense, memory is the cognitive function that stores knowledge that we've acquired through learning and perception. But also, memory is important because memory frees our behavior from control by the present stimulus environment. If you didn't have memory, all you'd be able to do is to react to whatever's currently in the environment now, whatever it is that you're experiencing. But memory allows us to respond to past events as well as events in the current stimulus environment. And memory also gives us the means to reflect on our experiences so that we plan for future encounters.
Experimental psychological research is conducted in a lab under controlled conditions. It attempts to rely solely on an application of research methods to understand behavior and mental processes. As an example of a psychological experiment, you might want to investigate people's perception of different tones. Specifically, you could ask the following question. Is it easier for people to discriminate one pair of tones from another depending on their frequency? To answer this, you would want to disprove the hypothesis that all tones are equally easy to discriminate.
In the United States, the poet Walt Whitman published a work called Democratic Vistas. This was in 1871, and I quote from that work. He's talking here about the development of a program of culture drawn out, not for a single class alone, or for the parlors or lecture rooms, but with an eye to the practical life and to the West, the working man, the facts and forms and jack planes and engines, of the broad range of the woman also, of the middle class and working strata, and with reference to the perfect equal quality of women and of a grand and powerful motherhood. So these ideas of the individual, the ordinary individual, as someone who has a right and a responsibility to an education, had begun clearly to emerge in the United States.
Hey, Sally. How are you?
Yeah, all right, yeah.
Look, I was wondering, did you go to Alan Johnson's lecture on globalisation yesterday?
Of course. And why weren't you there?
I had a bit of a nightmare. My alarm didn't go off and I overslept.
Oh, John, that's pathetic.
I know. Was it any good, the lecture?
Well, yeah. No, actually it was. It was quite interesting, but it was a bit complicated. I took some notes, actually.
Fantastic.
We need a bit of stress in our lives to keep us alert, to keep us going, but we also need to have that burst of stress that then is managed and drops again. It's when stress remains high constantly that we're in real problems. And that's the real concern with the way our society is organised today, is that we put people in situations that do leave them chronically stressed.
How difficult do you feel your life is at present?
To find out if Australian families are too stressed, the longitudinal study asks behavioural science questions.
How well do you think you're coping?
In Life at One, we add some biological science. We trawl the saliva of our parents and babies for a hormone called cortisol. When we're stressed, our physical response and the emotions we feel are triggered by chemicals released in our body. First is adrenaline, providing the increased heart rate every kid needs to escape a bully. But if the threat continues, our body goes on high alert and cortisol kicks in to shut down parts of the brain.
And the things that we shut down are things like rational thinking, memories, our immune system, and a range of other things that, I guess, through evolution, our body is determined that aren't necessary to deal with the immediate trauma.
But if a child is continually stressed, constantly shutting down their memory and immune system can seriously affect the way their brain grows.
I think there are too many people in the federal parliament
ambience at the moment who take themselves extraordinarily seriously. And that's not just politicians. It's a lot of the staff of politicians. The ministerial advisor thing has grown out of all proportion. And you get these, you see them at election times, all strutting around in Hugo Boss suits talking on mobiles. When a politician is seen on the television, all these staffers and so on, they're very self-important people usually. And they all want to be politicians when they grow up.
The neuroendocrine system is under particular onslaught in our modern life. Not only does it serve as the conduit for our emotional life, but it is also under threat from our external environment. The amount of chemicals acting as so-called endocrine disruptors is going up by the day. These chemicals, which range from pesticides and herbicides to ingredients of plastics, which look chemically like some of the hormones in our bodies, can then bind to the receptor and cause a stimulation of the receptor, or block it so that the appropriate hormone cannot.
I mean, it saves so much time if you just include the page numbers for any quotes that you've written down, everything. Have you been doing that?
No, I haven't actually. I've been keeping a note of the books and obviously who wrote them and their editors and things like that, but no, I haven't been keeping the actual page numbers.
Right, well, just from my own experience when I was a postgrad, I found that I just wasted so much time when I had to go back, because the thing is, you will have to revise the work that you do, and you can save so much time if you've actually got all the page numbers written down as well, because it means you can go back to the exact quote that you found and work on it there.
Does that mean that you could try to figure out the connection between, or the relationship between behavior and these technological settings in such a way that you could try to create a technological setting that allowed just those types of behavior that were good? I'm intending this to be a very simple question, perhaps too simple, but that's an open question. Can you construct a technological setup so that it implies a certain type of behavior?
Rivers provide habitat and migration pathways for numerous aquatic species.
Teaching assistants will receive a monthly stipend for housing.
To gain full marks, an appropriate bibliography is required.